So today we'll be talking about Gate 3 RFI site instructions and reporting module. Welcome everyone. So our objectives for this session is hopefully by the end of the session all of you will have a better understanding of the RFI module, site instructions, and how to use the reporting module in Gate 3. So our agenda, we just went over the objectives. We'll go into the RFI module and then go into the site instructions and reporting modules. And then we'll have a quick Q&A, and I'll show you how you can play around in the training sandbox environment. There's a link from the EllisDon portal page. So that we are all on the same page, I want to just discuss what an RFI is. An RFI stands for Request for Information, and it can be initiated by anyone on the project. Typically it is directed to the project manager, the RFI reviewer, so introducing some new Gate 3 terminology. In the system we will be configuring an RFI reviewer. And then this person will review the RFI. They can respond to the RFI, or they can request a response from the primary consultant. The primary consultant in Gate 3 terminology is called the primary reviewer. And in some cases, Gate 3 does provide you the opportunity and flexibility to further solicit answers or clarification from other consultants, and this would be called a secondary reviewer. So one of the first things that we have to do is configure the RFI module. What most people don't understand is on a new project, they'll start creating RFIs and they'll run into some issues because they haven't configured some of the parameters. So this is very important. I can't stress how important it is, really starting from the settings and moving forward into the RFI module. So we will take a look at RFI priority, RFI category, RFI type, RFI design discipline, and setting up the RFI default reviewers. And you can always come back and update the RFI reviewers throughout the project. You can access Gate 3 from the EllisDon portal, clicking on Our Work, going into Gate 3. That takes you directly into the application. Alternatively, you can open up a browser and then just type in build.gate3.com, and that also takes you into the first screen, the login screen. And you're always going to be signing in with your EllisDon email address and Windows password. From the Gate 3 home, selecting your project. That takes you into your specific project. And we're going to start off by going into the settings module, which is found by clicking Start under Administration Settings. So it's a good idea to just review some of the overall settings, and in the event that you have to tweak at the project level, it's a good idea to just come in and review the parameters. So always make sure you select your project level and then scroll down to where it says Field Management, going into Request for Information, clicking on Open, opens up this module's settings. So as you can see, the first parameter is RFI priority, which is basically high, low, medium. It's a text priority text field, and it's associated to a number. So based on the RFI priority that you select on the RFI document, the system will automatically calculate when the RFI has to be responded to, or the response has to be provided by the primary consultant. So as you can see, with a RFI priority of high, there's 3 days. And over to the right, under the day type, the system does allow either business days or working days. So if I click on edit, just for demonstration purposes, at this point the system is pulling the overall level. I can actually click on override and tweak these parameters so that they are set up for the project. As you can see, it just changed, and now these are project specific. So I can click on add RFI priority and I will add urgent. And this urgent RFI priority has to be responded within 1 business day. So business would be excluding Saturday and Sunday, and then every single day calendar days. Okay, so if your job is 247, you could use the calendar days. Okay, and then clicking on apply to save that. Okay, the next parameter that we have to review is the RFI category. So based on the RFI category that you pull and use on your RFI document, the system will actually assign the prefix and the number. So you have the flexibility of having several RFI categories. So on a really large job, if you're working on a hospital job that's going to, take maybe 4 or 5 years for construction, you may want to have different people taking care of all of your mechanical RFIs. So we could actually create an RFI category for mechanical RFIs, and another one for architectural, and then have another one for electrical. So we would create the RFI category and then a prefix. So every time that specific category is pulled in, the system will assign the prefix and then the next sequential number. That's how the numbering gets assigned. It's based off of the RFI category. Okay, so in this instance we basically just have one. I'm going to click on override, and I will add mechanical, again for demonstration purposes. And then clicking on apply. Okay. The RFI type, this basically is just the type of RFI: design, site conditions, pulling from the overall. Again, if you wanted to tweak that list, then you can click on override and create custom project related RFI types. The type is informational on the RFI document. And design discipline is also, we have a preset and a default list: architectural, civil, demolition, and these are all pulling from the overall. You could click on override and tweak that if you wanted to add to the project level. The most important thing that you set up in the RFI module is really the category and the RFI reviewers. So as you can see on this project, Donna is the project manager, and she's going to be the default RFI reviewer for the RFI category request for information. So this is where you would have to come in. For example, if I toggle back to RFI category and I had several other categories, I have request for information, mechanical, if I had electrical and architectural, and I had a specific person that those RFIs are going to go to, then under RFI reviewers section, this is where you are going to select the RFI reviewer for that category. So as you can see, all RFIs with the request for information category, the default reviewer is Donna, project manager. Everything will be going to her. And then if it's left blank, it will also go to her. Okay. And we also have the ability of creating a default list for the primary reviewer, which is the primary consultant. So in our database we have Tom Architect as the primary consultant, and again this is just a default. In both of these it's a default for primary reviewer and secondary reviewer. When you actually go in on their behalf and log in and manage the RFI with their comments and whatever they've provided to you, you actually have the opportunity to pull in anyone from your project contact list. Okay, so these are just defaults. These two lists are default lists. You can actually select from anyone on your project contact list to be the primary reviewer or secondary. And then notifications, this is typically pulling from the overall. You can customize that at the project level. These are the messages that are sent. So when an RFI gets sent to the reviewer, the subject is going to contain the RFI project number, then the RFI project name, and then RFI number and subject. So you can tweak and customize the actual email notifications that get sent out to the RFI reviewer. This would be to the first person reviewing the RFI. Primary reviewer is the primary consultant, and then other consultants. So you can tweak and customize the look and feel of these messages. I'm going to click on Save because I did add a new category. And clicking on Start, going now to the RFI module, it is found under Field Management. Clicking on Request for Information takes you into the default All RFIs view. And this is just going to provide you a list of all the current RFIs. And under the status, it contains draft, under review, under primary review, and closed. So this is just the default. I'm just going to toggle back to our presentation because I want to walk you through the RFI document flow so that right before we go in and actually create an RFI, we understand what's happening. So a project coordinator, site admin, or anyone on the project for that matter can go in and create the RFI. The RFI is going to contain some information depending on who's initiating it, typically for clarification and an explanation. So they go in, create the document with some information, and then they submit that RFI, and it goes to an RFI reviewer. So typically it is the PM on the job, and it's going to just default into their activity dashboard. And the RFI reviewer goes in and can issue a final response. They have the ability to, if they know what the answer is, they can actually issue final response and then distribute that final response to the person that asked the question and required the clarification. So that's one option that the RFI reviewer has. Most times, 90% of the time, the RFI reviewer is going to request an answer from the primary consultant. And this person is the primary reviewer in Gate 3. So we request an answer from the primary consultant and it goes into their activity. We wait a couple of days depending again on the RFI priority, and once we get an email, if your external team is not collaborating with you on Gate 3, then you wait until you receive an email, and you then go in on their behalf into Gate 3 and you're basically logging in their response. So you have to basically log and manage the RFI on their behalf. You go in and on their behalf record what they've said, maybe scan their email and then upload the file onto the RFI. Depending on the response, if you're not satisfied, we can further request an answer. So this can If it's ambiguous and you still think, you know what, they haven't really answered it, you can request an answer again, and it goes back into their ball and court, into their activities. So you can have it open. Otherwise, you also have the option of requesting an answer from a secondary reviewer who is basically a secondary consultant and waiting for their response. Okay? But once you have that final response, you're going to again log it into Gate 3, and it comes back to the RFI reviewer. This is again someone at EllisDon, and we review and we can add to the message that we want to submit and issue final response and distribution. So it always comes back to EllisDon for final issuance and distribution. Are there any questions regarding this RFI document flow? No questions? Just want to take a quick look at who else has joined. Kelly, are you on the line? And Ben, are you currently on the phone?
Hi, Anne-Marie, I am on the line.
Okay, perfect. And Ben, are you on the phone? Okay, it looks like we're waiting for someone else. Okay, oops, sorry. So I'll be coming back to this document flow as we go through the RFI process. So you can create an RFI by clicking New, obviously making sure you are in the RFI module. Clicking New RFI takes you into a completely brand new draft RFI. However, I want to showcase clicking on Start, going into Document Management, and going into the Communications module, and actually opening up a new RFI from an incoming email. So if your subcontractor has emailed you and they have also provided an attachment, maybe a drawing that they need further clarification on, you can actually go into your project inbox, select the email, click on Open, and up at the very top, clicking on More Actions allows you to create any type of document that you see listed here. So today I'm going to demonstrate how you can create an RFI from an incoming email. So clicking RFI takes you into the RFI draft document, and over on the left hand side the different sections that need to be filled in are listed. So the first portion is the RFI summary. This basically contains, it will contain the reference number, the RFI number, submitted by and submitted on, as well as the default reviewer. So these fields will automatically be populated when you click on Submit, based on some of the other information that you fill in the other sections. So our priority, I'm going to use urgent. So the due date will be in 1 day, because again, if I toggle back to the settings, just as a reference point, we said that urgent number of days to respond is 1. So the system will calculate our response due date when we require that response. So we're using urgent, which is 1 day, equivalent to 1 day. And you do have the ability to associate milestones if you have created them through the milestones and scheduling module in Gate 3. And this is just for informational purposes. The system's not going to track and alert you that you've hit a milestone. This is just for informational purposes, that you can select a milestone previously created and associate it to the RFI. So that's just a quick example. And then if this is initiated, if this RFI is initiated by the subcontractor, we can reference their RFI number. so we can just reference their number. If it is originating and initiated by the consultant and they have a specific number, you can use this field and plug in their number. And then we have some additional fields for like sub-consultants. So special consultant number, again, this is just for reference, referencing another person, the initiator's RFI number. Okay, so this is just additional reference numbers. This is really where you want to come in, and if you are a project coordinator, but you are logging this and creating this on the subcontractor's behalf in Gate 3, this is where you will want to click on Change and actually change this to the, so I'm going to say that Alfonso Asphalt from Lane Paving Contracting is initiating, and basically the question has originated from Alfonso. So making sure that you click on Change Contact, this is where you are pulling in the person that is requesting the RFI to be created. Okay, so clicking on Change. If you find within this pop-up, you come in and you're looking for someone using the filter, so I'm just going to pretend I'm looking for Doug. I don't know if there's a Doug. Okay, there happens to be a Doug, but in the event that I was not able to find Doug Electrical, that indicates to you that this person may not be linked to your project. So you would have to go into the contacts module and just ensure that this person has been associated and linked to your project. Okay, so I just want to point that out. So we have our subcontractor and the date that it is initiated. So it defaults to today's date. You can change this to a previous date. You cannot select a future date. Category, this is going to determine who the RFI reviewer is going to be. So I'm going to select Request for Information. Again, toggling back into the settings just to review that Donna Project is the default reviewer for this category, RFI category. So when I click on Submit, by default this RFI will automatically go into her activities. So one of the very common mistakes that we get from people using this module live is, for example, if Donna was away during the Christmas holidays, all RFIs using this category would have gone to her, and the project coordinator or assistant PM would not have been able to go in and review it on her behalf, or and push it out. So let me just, because it went to her ball and court, it goes into Donna's. So it's very important that you ensure in the settings that you also select and associate other people on your project to be able to review this type of category. Okay, so I'll just use you guys. So Melissa and Chris, if you guys were both project coordinators or assistant PM, ensure that your name is listed as an RFI reviewer and associated to Request for Information. That way you are covered in the event that, we'll just say Donna, your project manager, is away. You guys, because you've been associated and linked to the RFI category, you can always go in on her behalf and push it out. Review it and then push it out, request answer, and get an answer from the primary, because as you can tell, these RFIs are time-sensitive documents. This one in particular is urgent, so I need a response in a day, and you don't want to get stuck. Is that clear with everyone? Because that's very common. We find people calling us and saying, I'm stuck. My PM or the RFI reviewer, they're away, they're in a meeting, and I have to get this out. So again, making sure that within your settings, I cannot stress this enough, in your settings you have multiple RFI reviewers so that they can go in on their behalf. and push it out for you. Okay? You can always come back, so you're not going to be stuck. You can always come back if you do find that there is a blocker, and you can click on edit and add yourself. So in the event that there is a blocker, you can always come back into this settings area and add yourself and associate yourself to the RFI category in order to go into the document and review it. Okay? So I just want to mention that as a tip though. Make sure that when you're setting it up, you do set yourselves up, or the PM will set you guys up as a reviewer. So we have the category. Based on this RFI category, the system is going to look to the RFI category prefix, which is in this example RFI prefix, and as soon as I click on submit, gate 3 will basically use the RFI category prefix to assign the RFI number. So it takes the prefix RFI in this case, and it's going to assign the next sequential number, number 1 or number 2. So it looks to the RFI category, uses the prefix, and then the next sequential number to assign the RFI number. There's also an internal gate 3 reference number that is automatically populated once you submit. And the system will also populate the person who has logged in and is creating the RFI. So it should list my name, the date that I submitted it, and then calculate the due date based on the priority that I've selected. Type is basically, you can select from the pull down. So I just have 2 here. Alfonso is from paving, so we'll do site conditions. Discipline, again, is a parameter that is broken out in the settings. So I'll use demolition here. And because this RFI was created from an incoming email, it does pull the subject from the email, at which time I can now tweak it, massage it. So we will just on a drawing or something, okay? And the description, the nice thing about creating an RFI from an email is that it pulls in the message from the email. So that's kind of like the nice thing. I just wanted to show that. It does pull in the message, the body of the email. And you're just going to capture the what the request is from the subcontractor, whoever is initiating this, the clarification, the question that we need more information for in this section. And if they've provided a drawing or a spec, or a plan that requires more clarification, you can upload it here. Alternatively, at this point, you can just quickly review and make sure that you've captured everything before submitting it. Okay, so at this point I am ready to submit. I'm basically in this step right here. I've just created my RFI, and I've selected the RFI category, the RFI priority, and captured the relevant information. And I'm now going to click on submit. So it will automatically trigger the document flow and go into the RFI reviewer's activities, which is Donna PM. So clicking on submit. Sorry, I apologize. Let me try and save as draft. We recently purged a whole bunch of information from the training database, the sandbox database, because it was just way too polluted. So let me just try submitting it. Looks like that is working. Okay, and I'll just jot down a note to let my QA guys know that we ran into that. Okay. So as you can see up at the very top, the RFI document status is under review. So it's been submitted, and it now should be in Donna Project's activities because she was defined as the RFI reviewer for that category. So let's just go and quickly take a look at Start, Activities, reviewing some of the things that you guys have learned, and then going into View, Project Activities. Project Activities gives you a bird's eye view of all of the activities for that specific project. So if I zone in on Donna and the type, RFI, this is the RFI, that drawing clarification. So I can see that it is in her ball and court. And action required is for her to go in and either respond. She has two options. She can issue response if she knows it. And by doing this, she's basically closing it and issuing the final response to the person that has asked that question or clarification. Okay, so this option will close that RFI. If she goes in and responds, it will close it. Alternatively, she can request an answer. So 90% of the time, it typically gets pushed out and we request an answer from the primary consultant. So I will be walking you guys through this option, request answer. So I won't be able to actually do this because I'm signed on as myself, but I'll just show you what happens when I click open and I scroll down to the very bottom, reviewer comments section. I don't see any action buttons available. So as you can see, if Donna was away today and we had to get this out, I'm blocked. So at this point, I'm going to close this RFI number 2 and go into the settings, click on edit, and I will add myself as a reviewer. For request for information. I don't have to be the default. Donna, my PM, is the default, but I do want to be able to go in and change the reviewer. So I'm going to click on save and you will now see what happens. So if we go into the RFI module, again, always taking a look up at the very top where your modules are open, we're going to go into all RFI view, and it was that for number 2, RFI number 2. So the system should have used the RFI prefix, and it hasn't. So that's probably one of the issues. So just keep that in mind, that the RFI number is always going to be your prefix and then the number. And we have it listed here. Up at the very top, RFI number 2 is listed. The Gate 3 automatically assigns an internal reference number. So there's our reference. And now I'm going to click on Edit, and I'm going to change the reviewer. So I can actually do this because I've set myself up as a reviewer. If I had not set myself up as a reviewer, you would not be able to change the reviewer. So clicking on Change Reviewer, I can now select myself and just click on Save to apply that change. It's been saved. So now if I scroll down to the bottom, maybe I'll just refresh it. Let me close it and then go back into the view. Actually, if I go into my home, which is my activities, you will notice that there's my RFI because it's now in my activity dashboard. It's been assigned to myself. And this is just how it appears because it's due today. So anything due today would be under the yellow banner. Anything overdue is pink. Anything overdue in the future would be highlighted in green, in a green banner, displayed under a green banner. So I can click on Open to open up that RFI. And now if I scroll to the bottom, I should have seen the two action. Let me just click on Edit. There it is, sorry. So you have to click on Edit and toggle to the very bottom, and now I can request an answer. Sorry, so there's a question. Jordan, did you have a question about the start and navigating to the administration module? Maybe I'll ask later. Okay. So at this point, I've opened up the RFI. I placed it in edit mode. And down at the very bottom, again, you have to scroll to the very bottom of the RFI to reviewer comments. And this is where we have the option to request an answer. So again, I'm in the process of requesting an answer from my primary consultant. So I see that button available because I am now an RFI reviewer. The RFI reviewer, okay? So clicking on Request Answer. This is now, this is just a pop-up that appears. I have to fill in some information. But I just want to scroll down to the middle section where it says Select Primary. This is where the system is going to display the default people that you have set up for primary reviewer or secondary reviewer. Okay, so there's the default list. And as I mentioned previously, this is not mandatory. It's nice to have so that you can always select the primary from the list. Alternatively, if in the event that you wanted to select anyone from your project contact list, you do have this option by clicking on this checkbox, and this opens up all of your project contact and displays all of your project contacts. So these are people that have been linked to your project, and you would be able to use the filter text boxes up at the top here and narrow your search. So you can either use the default primary consultant that has been previously configured in the settings, or by clicking on this little checkbox, you have the option of selecting anyone you want to request an answer from. Okay, so you do have that flexibility. I'm going to select my primary, who is Tom Architect, and if you wanted to copy anyone for informational purposes, people do use this bottom half section where it says select additional reviewers. You can open this up and you could select other people, kind of like an FYI. Okay, their email notification is actually going to say for your review. Okay, but you can tweak that again. So you can use this bottom section, select additional reviewers if you want to copy someone. So I'll actually just select Anna and copy her. And then up at the top here of the pop-up, this is where you're going to enter in the message. So, hi Tom, can you please Okay, so you're going to fill in the comment section. Again, this message is going out to my primary consultant. The response due date is calculating as today because again it was urgent and it was linked to 1 day. You can always override that. So the system does allow you to override that. So if I think, okay, you know what, it's already almost 3 o'clock. There's no way he's going to get back to me today. Let's just extend it till Thursday. You have the ability to override that within this pop-up before you click on request, okay? So just make a mental note that you do have that option available. The notify me when consultants have responded, this is if your external consultant is using Gate 3 collaboratively and they're signing on and basically providing the answer. When they use the Gate 3 system, it would, if you have this set to yes, then it would notify you. But this is only if your external stakeholders are using Gate 3. For the most part, most of our projects are still managing the RFI process. So you kind of wait until they submit their email and then you come back in and record and log their comments on their behalf. Okay, so really this is not applicable if you are not collaborating with your team on Gate 3. Okay, and at this point, once you've selected the primary reviewer, and you can also select other people that you want to copy, at this point we are ready to push it out to the primary consultant's ball in court. So I'm going to go ahead in Gate 3 down at the bottom of this pop-up and click request answer. And the system has not submitted it and hasn't sent it until you click on save. So this is really important. Make sure that you click on save. It's at this point in time that the system is now submitting and sending them the notification for their review. And I'm going to go quickly toggle into the communications module. Again, clicking on start under document management, communications module, going into the project message archive. Excuse me. This is a repository of all the documents that have been sent out. So as you can see, 2 documents were just sent out. Sorry, not 2 documents, 2 notifications. One was for Tom Architect, which is my primary consultant. So one went into Tom Architect's ball in court as primary reviewer, and the other one was in the pop-up. I selected someone under the secondary reviewer section to FYI them. So that's the second email that was sent out. So I just wanted to show you that you can always come in to the message archive. I can open up the email that was sent out to Tom, and he gets the PDF. This is what they're going to get. So let's just click on this. So they get the request for information PDF, who it was initiated by. Currently it's under review. You know, some information. The description. Oh, actually, is this, sorry, is that the right one? Yeah, that would have been right now. I don't think my description had all that information in it. Okay, there is definitely a glitch going on in this training sandbox environment because I did not type in all of this information. Mine was actually regarding a dimension, so something's happened. Just FYI, I did add these comments, so that's correct. So something funky is happening, my apologies. But this would be the PDF that is sent out to the architect, to the primary consultant. And then the second one was for informational purposes, so that's where I mentioned they do get the, yeah, probably from the email, but I thought I had erased all the text and verbiage from the email. So this second one is to basically a consultant at the same firm that I want to copy for their information. I want to carbon copy them. So sometimes that occurs. Okay? So I just wanted to point out that you can always come into the communications module under the message archive in order to see that it actually was sent out and submitted. So at this point, it is now under primary review. So if I go back to my document flow, it is currently with my primary consultant. It is at this stage. So now what you do is basically wait until they respond. A couple of days or a couple of hours, again, depending on the due date. So let's close all of this out. And once you've received their email, their clarification, or their answer, it's at that point, again, you're going to go into request for information. And we can use the RFIs by stage view by expanding this little tree, stage tree. So it is no longer under review status. It's now under primary review. So you can kind of zone in under primary review. Our RFI was number 2. Click on open, and again we have to do this on their behalf if your primary consultant's not collaborating with you on gate 3. So once you receive that email, you're going to click on edit, and again going down to the bottom, to the very bottom, and depending on what they have provided you, if you are not satisfied with the answer that they've provided, you could request answer again. You can do this as many times as you want. Sometimes they come back and it's quite ambiguous. They're not being very clear. So by all means, you do have the ability to request answer once again. And it goes back into their ball in court. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and pretend that everything was covered. Their clarification, their answer is, it's okay. I'm satisfied with it. So I'm going to click on, completely drew a blank. 1 second. If I click on, I don't see my, there should be, oh my goodness, a link. Select on behalf of. Just bear with me, sorry. Making sure that I'm not missing anything. If I click on respond, oh okay, there it is. Okay, my apologies. So let me just do that again. I was looking for this link, so I'll do that once again. So you go into the RFI that is currently under primary review, click on Edit, and toggle down to the very bottom of the RFI, that last section which says Reviewer Comments. So at this point the link doesn't appear unless you click on Respond. So clicking on Respond, and now you get this bottom half section. So this is really where you are going to click on Select on behalf of. So Tom is my architect and I'm really logging this in on his behalf. So I'm going to select my primary consultant. And at this point I can type in exactly what he has said in the email, or see, please refer to attached email. And then scan that email and PDF it. So let me pick something here. So we've uploaded that scanned copy of the email that he's sent me. Okay. So that I'm going to click on Apply to save that. So that has been applied. As you can see, I have basically, it logs my name and stamps it by date and time, and basically jots down that I logged it on his behalf. At this point I can click on Save to just make that, to log that in. And now what should happen is, let's go back, so I'm logging his response. It comes back into EllisDon's ball and court. It goes back to my RFI reviewer. Okay, so it's gone back to under review, and because I made myself the reviewer, it should be in my activities dashboard, and there it is. So it's sitting back in my ball and court in my activity dashboard. So I can go ahead and open it and click Edit. And at this point we now want to, once it's here, you can now review their comments and issue your final response. So at this point I'm ready to draft final response to Alfonso, my subcontractor, and then distribute that final response back to him and copy anyone that you want. Okay, so that's the step that we're in. So I'm going into the middle where it says Final Response section. You can actually click on it from the left-hand side navigation panel, and it takes you directly, the right-hand side screen refreshes and it takes you into that section. So if that's a little easier than using the scroll bar, then by all means. Again, just clicking on a particular section takes you to that on the right-hand side. So, oh sorry, I did forget one quick tip, which is found under the reviewer comments, and this is just going to save you some typing time. So if you toggle down to the very, very bottom and you click on this copy to response, this will actually take what was recorded in this section. Click on, so I'm going to do that, copy to response, and it basically fills in, populates it in the final response. So that's a good tip. Again, going down to the very bottom, clicking on that button, and then coming back to the final response section. And at this point, if you want to add anything, you can. It automatically defaults the person that was the originator, the initiator, and it pulls them in. You can add people that you want to notify. And I can add all reviewers. And at this point I am ready to issue my final response. So I'm going to click on Issue Response, and I get this pop-up, at which time I still have the ability to verify my final response. So I can jot down other notes. Okay, I cannot delete or remove anyone from the list that I've selected. So if I had forgotten to include someone, you would have to click on cancel in this pop-up and start over and just click on add all reviewers. Oops, sorry, I just wanted to, okay, I've added all reviewers. You can delete or remove and then just add one other person. So I'll add this person just to demonstrate. And now once you're ready, you've made those changes, clicking on issue response pulls you into that pop-up, at which time you can review the people that you've selected as well as reviewing the attachment that you had previously uploaded. This is basically the attachment from the previous stage, from this stage. Okay? And clicking issue response, this time it is actually sending it, a little different. You don't have to click save. This is actually sending the email notification and distribution. So I'm going to just jump into the communications module and go into the message archive and refresh that view. And we have 3 messages that were just sent to Alfonso, myself, and the other person. Okay, so again, you can always come back into the message archive to audit that. And up at the very top, you'll notice that my RFI now has a status of closed. So once you log and issue that final response, you distribute that final answer and it closes out your RFI. It has been closed. In the event that the subcontractor Alfonso comes back to me and says, you know what, I'm still having a problem with that drawing, it's still not clear to me, you do have the ability of creating a new RFI linked to this one. So kind of reopening it, or if there's another problem that was derived from this initial clarification and issue, you could also click on created linked and it opens up a new RFI document. And once I submit this, the reference number would be RFI 2.1. Okay, so it would be linked to the original RFI. And the nice thing is that under the linked RFI, you would have the reference to the original RFI number 2. So there's a section in here that would list the original RFI as being number 2. So that's one option. And when you do create a linked RFI, you do have the option of selecting a different category, because it can be another issue. Like maybe now it's not request for information, it is now a mechanical issue or question that has been originated from that first question. Okay, so you do have that option to change the category. Any questions regarding create linked RFI? Another thing I want to mention is you don't have the option of making any changes or modifications to a closed RFI. However, if you click on edit, you can add additional comments. And this is only, so these comments, when you click on save, will not be distributed to everyone. So it doesn't redistribute that final response. The purpose is really just meant for you to log these additional comments and have them part of the RFI, but they don't go out to everyone. They become part of our project record. So I just want you to know that you do have that option as well. You can add additional comments as well as attach an additional file if you forgot to do something. Okay? And always making sure you click on Apply and then Save. So that's the RFI module. Let me quickly go into the different views. So as you can see, we have the first view that we went into, which is the default view, and that basically lists out the RFI number, the prefix and the number, as well as the internal Gate 3 reference, the subject, who submitted it, and the default reviewer, the status of the RFI, basically some information within the document itself, within the RFI, and you can always click on Open to open it. We also have RFIs by category. So this view, if you are using several different categories, then you can use this one. We have, I didn't create any with mechanical, so we only have under RFI, request for information. And then the third one was by stage. So depending on where your document is in the process, you can expand this stage tree and zone in. So under the closed, there's my RFI that we just closed. Okay, another way of sorting and locating your RFI. And let me just take a quick look at my notes to make sure that I've covered everything. Okay, I think I've covered everything. I talked about the created linked. Everything that I have discussed is listed in the job aid, which I will be submitting and sending to all of you as a follow-up to the session. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is introducing the reporting module. So going into Start, Reporting. As a default, you should have an RFI log available under Field Management. So you would click on, let me see under, okay, it hasn't been pushed to this project. So give me 1 second, let me go into my overall reports. Okay, I might not have it. No, it hasn't been deployed. Okay, I'm going to update that. So on day one of your logging into your project, you should have under My Project Reports, you would have some defaults. Oh, excuse me. Similar to some logs and reports that you had in Edge Builder. An RFI log would be one of them, and it basically takes the RFI view by stage and all RFI view rather. It takes this view and pulls it into an Excel or PDF. Okay, I think most projects are using the Excel. So what you would be able to do is tweak and filter that report before you go into an OAC meeting, and just let the consultant, primary consultant, know, okay, we're currently waiting on these RFIs, etc. Okay, so that again is under Start, Reporting, and it would be in My Project Reports. You would be able to create a report by clicking Create, or Show Reports will display previously created reports, and you can click on Open, and then up at the top here, using either Open Initial Report or Open Report, does the same thing. It downloads the Excel spreadsheet, and you can open it up. So this is just an example of daily site report. If I had the RFI one, it would kind of look like this as well, but up at the top it would just say RFI report log and list all of my RFIs from that view, from the All RFI view. Okay? Any questions, comments, feedback, concerns? Okay, the last thing that I have to show you is basically if there is an RFI that goes into an SI, like a site instruction, clicking on Start, under Project Management, you will find Site Instructions. And this is, okay, I'm just getting a warning, maximum number of open modules has been reached. I can't have more than 5 modules open at any given time. So the system's just asking me to close one of these modules. So I click on OK and just start cleaning up the top there. Okay, so Start, Project Management, Site Instructions. Clicking on New Site Instruction. If there is an architect reference number, just recording that, and then the category, again this is pulling in from an overall list. For site instruction settings, we didn't really go into that, but you can have a look. If you require an additional one, you can add it. And then who you want to issue it to. So I'll just use Alfonso. And who you want a carbon copy. Again, in this pop-up, if the person you're looking for does not appear and you can't find them, that means they're not part of your project contact list. They probably haven't been linked to your project. Okay? The subject. So that one was dimensions. And the instruction, etc. Okay, site instruction date defaults to today's date. The due date, this is a soft due date. It is not going to be placed in the ball and court. This is really for informational purposes. The system will not put it in their ball and court with that due date. Okay, the disclaimer section, this is pulled in automatically from the settings, and you can tweak that at this time. You do have the ability to tweak it if you want and override it. You also have the ability to associate a milestone that has been previously created in the milestones and scheduling module. So again, I'll demonstrate this. I think I clicked on that one. So it's just pulling a previously created milestone purely for informational purposes. It does pull in your project information here, and I don't have a superintendent defined in my project profile, so I will select Daniel, and my PM did not come in either. Okay. And then there is a section down at the bottom allowing you to add just general comments and attachments above and beyond the instructions if need be. Okay, so the instructions go in that top portion, and then down at the bottom, if you want supplementary comments and attachments, you have the option to do that. A nice feature that we have within this document is you can associate it to an RFI, a change, and a submission, and a design document. So we're actually in the process of developing an enhancement for the RFI module that you can link an RFI to different documents, to a change, submission, and design document as well, similar to this. So clicking on Associate RFI, RFI number 2, that one's an old one. I can tell because mine did not have the prefix. So it looks like, yeah, I'm having an issue with this one. Okay, I'll just select this for demonstration purposes. Again, you'd be selecting an RFI, clicking on Apply, and now it's just, this is for informational purposes, FYI. They're linked. At this point you have the option to click on Save as Draft. So the difference between draft and issue is that once you issue, you can't make any changes to it, whereas in draft you can always update. So clicking on issue, your status is updated from draft to active. And you'll notice up at the very top, if I click on edit, I can't make any changes to the actual site instruction. I can only create a new version. So it supersedes this version, and the next one that I create will be 006 version 2. Okay, you have the ability to create a new version. As far as the view, we only have one view, and it's called Site Instruction View. This is where it will list every single site instruction that has been superseded and is active. And you can always open the site instruction. Any questions? Let me just take a look if there were any questions earlier. Okay. So that's all I have to show you. Again, I would definitely recommend that you go into our sandbox, although I'm going to have to get someone to check about that error. So if you do come into the sandbox environment, again clicking Our Work, Information Technology, and then selecting Gate 3 from the left hand side, and going under Training Environment, clicking on that link, using pm@training.gate3.ca with We Build 1951, and going into Eastern Fair, you can definitely try creating them. Just as a FYI, because we encountered an issue today, make sure that you save as draft first. Okay? So when you sign in as PM, you are Donna. You're basically Donna Project, because she's the PM on this project, which hasn't been assigned. Okay, so I'll update that. So for the workflow, for the document flow, she is she's the project manager. Okay, so I'll do that later. So any questions? So just as a recap before we wrap things up, today we covered the RFI module. Again, ensuring that your configuration, you make sure you spend some time looking at that and setting up the RFI reviewers and linking them to the RFI categories. And I also walked you through 2 different ways of creating a completely brand new RFI, draft RFI. We went through the new drop-down from within the RFI module, and then from your project inbox, opening up an email. And then we looked at the different views and site instructions and reporting module. Okay? So thank you guys for your participation. I hope you found it useful. Please let me know if you have any questions. You can contact me by email or give me a call.
Thank you.